In August of 2018, we explored the lovely state of Maine aboard the Sail La Vie, our McGregor 26M sailboat. The adventure began as we trailered the boat 1,100 miles from our home in Ohio to Southwest Harbor, Maine. For the next 2 weeks, Dysart's Great Harbor Marina would be our home. We arrived at low tide, so there was no space on the dock to launch. But here's the same dock 5 hours later at high tide. We launched without issue and tied up our berth at Dysart's. We were the smallest boat there. Nestled at the inland tip of Southwest Harbor, Dysart's is a very sheltered location. Southwest Harbor is a busy hub of commercial and pleasure boats, with plenty of sailboats, both large and small. Mount Desert Island was our area of exploration for the 2 weeks we were there. The island is shaped like a lobster claw. Somes Sound, a 6-mile-long fjord, runs through the island's heart. A fjord is a narrow, deep inlet of the sea, and Somes is the only fjord on the east coast. Acadia National Park occupies much of Mount Desert Island's 108 square miles. 1,500-foot tall Cadillac Mountain rises east of Somes Sound, while Acadia Mountain lies to the west. Maine's tidal swings can be as much as 12 feet. Here's our pier at high tide, and now at low tide, a 10-foot difference. Low tide exposes the rocky bottom, a serious hazard for boats. In this time-lapse video, you can see about 3 hours of tide rise. Note the pole sticking out of the rocky bottom. And here's that same pole at high tide, a 10-foot difference. In Bar Harbor, for example, the sandbar is covered with water at high tide. But at low tide, you can walk from the city to the connecting island over that same sandbar on dry ground. The area is a sailing mecca. The Cranberry, Sutton, and Bear Islands act as barriers to rough conditions in the Atlantic. We could find favorable sailing conditions on most days, and we explored the area's coastlines, lighthouses, harbors, and inlets. We saw lots of seals as we were out on the water, but they're pretty shy and skittish. We were just able to catch some photos of this one before he submerged. This is the Rebecca, a 140-foot-long America's super yacht. Somes Sound is her home anchorage, and she was out sailing today.
Wherever you are, there's a sunrise and a sunset every single day, and they're absolutely free. Don't miss so many of them.
The Schoodic Peninsula lies north and east of Mount Desert Island and is part of Acadia National Park. The Schoodic Peninsula is a quintessential Maine coastline, desolate, rugged, and beautiful. The inland balsam forests give way to massive granite cliffs and outcroppings that project into the sea. With no barrier islands, the full force of wind and waves from the open Atlantic strike the peninsula. The sounds, splashes, and spray from this wave action create amazing scenes. The popular locations of Thunder Hole and Sand Beach are located on the Schoodic Peninsula.
I just love the glittering water.
Oh, look at this one. Oh, look at this one.
Acadia National Park was established when numerous private citizens donated their land to form the park. John D. Rockefeller Jr. was one of the main benefactors of the project. He knew back then that the automobile could threaten the tranquility of the park, so between 1913 and 1940, he financed and directed the construction of 57 miles of carriage roads. Construction of 16 ornate stone bridges was required to carry the carriage roads over streams, gullies, and existing highways. The carriage roads are accessible today to hikers, bicycles, and horses. And carriage tours are one of the best ways to see the roads and the surrounding sights. Jordan Pond is one of the many freshwater lakes that exist in Acadia National Park. The lakes are formed as fresh water becomes trapped between the granite mountains. The view is spectacular. Acadia was first visited by many aristocrats who came up from New York and Boston. Part of their summer routine would be to travel to Acadia National Park. Lunch on the lawn at Jordan Pond House has been a time-honored tradition since visitors started coming to Acadia. And the Jordan Pond House popovers are legendary. We took a tour boat out of Bar Harbor on the lobster boat Lulu to learn about Maine's lobster fisheries. The lobster boats drop lobster cages to the bottom and mark them with floats called lobster balls. There are lobster balls everywhere. The cages are raised periodically, the lobsters harvested. There are strict size limits. The ones that are keepers are kept on the boat. Those that are too large or too small are thrown back into the water. The cages are then rebaited and returned to the bottom. Lobstering is a big part of the area's economy. Each boat must secure a permit which states how many cages they can set in any given season. The permits are hard to come by, with some people waiting as long as 15 years to obtain an open permit. Dysart's is a working marina. In addition to the pleasure boats, there are plenty of lobster boats that work out of her piers. Every morning, these two high school students rowed out to a boat to start a day of lobstering. When the boats returned, we could buy a lobster right off of the boat, right at the dock, for $5 per lobster. Of course, the best part is eating lobster. Beale's Lobster Pier was one of our favorite places. And nothing tops a lobster dinner better than a nice slice of Maine blueberry pie. Unfortunately, after 2 weeks, it was time to go home. We have enjoyed our time in Maine, exploring her natural beauty, her rugged coast, and sailing the waters of Mount Desert Island. Living aboard the Sail La Vie was a fantastic way to explore the area. And we can't say enough about the great folks at Dysart's Marina who helped make our live aboard time an amazing experience. Goodbye for now, but we will be back.